once it goes. Hello and welcome to the Scarfey Talks Premier League podcast. I'm your host, Kaiden Hollyman, for this evening, in place of Harry, as he is busy at the moment. I'm joined by Bailey, Travis and Barney. Good evening, how are you?
Yeah, I'm very good, thank you, mate. How are you?
Yes, all good. Let's get started then, without further ado. So first of all, we're going to start off with reviewing the game that was Ipswich 1, West Ham 3. Now, I think it was a pretty obvious result. I think we were always going to see Ipswich lose this game, as Ipswich were already relegated. There was nothing to play for. And West Ham have got too much quality compared to Ipswich. For the first time this evening, I'm going to go to Travis. What did you think of that game?
Yeah, I thought, I think both teams have been obviously pretty poor this season. Obviously, Ipswich have been relegated, unfortunately. I thought they might have had more of a chance staying up. More of a chance than Southampton, to be fair. West Ham looking good towards the end of the season. Obviously not had a very good season, but they are looking better. Jarrod Bowen obviously playing much better than what he has been. It's a shame to see Ipswich go down. I've got quite like Ipswich. It was good to see them come up. Obviously, done really, really well last year to obviously be promoted. West Ham are quite lucky to be where they are, really. I think if they didn't have Jarrod Bowen in the team, I think it'd be in a completely different situation.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's Jarrod Bowen's very, very crucial for West Ham. But I think that they were always gonna beat Ipswich. Barney, what did you think of Ipswich 1, West Ham 3?
You muted, B. B, you're on mute.
Thank you, Travis. I'll start again, take two. Yeah, I really like Jarrod Bowen, obviously making 200 appearances now for West Ham. Obviously, their fans, they're quite demanding for success down there. And I know quite a few West Ham fans at work, and they're not particularly pleased with how their season's gone, which is, I expected them to be higher and not so further down the table. But let's be honest, the bottom three, Ipswich, Southampton, Leicester, have been really, really poor. Really poor. I mean, it's only a matter of luck that Man U and Spurs weren't drawn closer to them because of that quality they have. So this, result didn't shock me. I think Ipswich will need to have a little bit of a rebuild if they want to bounce back next season.
Yeah, I mean the Championship is a really ruthless league, and I'm obviously very, very aware of that, with me being a Watford fan. But yeah, I think Ipswich do need a rebuild if they're going to want success and another Premier League promotion. For the first time this evening, I'm going to go to Bailey. Bailey, what did you think of the game of Ipswich versus West Ham?
I thought, I wasn't positively surprised by West Ham. They were always going to beat them, but Ipswich had a large spell where they were on top. And it just looked like Ipswich were going to get back into the game until, West Ham got the second and third. But Ipswich have a solid base for next season. They're not going to struggle next season, I don't think. But yeah, they've been very disappointing this year. Would have thought they'd have more of a chance, but No. Hugely disappointing campaign.
Yeah, I mean, it does kind of beg into the question the kind of engulfing class between the Championship and the Premier League, and it's growing a lot bigger now, as the three teams that are getting promoted from the Championship are getting relegated later on. So I definitely think there needs to be some more funding to these Championship clubs as they come up to the Premier League to try and at least survive in that league to get anything done in a successful way. But it won't happen until more investment is given to these clubs. Moving on to Southampton 1 versus Arsenal 2. Travis, what did you think of that game?
Yeah, we all know, come on, we all knew that it was obviously going to be Arsenal winning that game, which pains me to say. I think Southampton have just given up. I think obviously they know they're relegated now, but I think they're going to be another team like Ipswich next year. I think they're going to build a solid foundation and a solid team to obviously come back up into the Premier League. But yeah, I think they've just been, really, really struggled this year. I don't really know why. Maybe it's a lack of employment into the club with players, but. Let's be honest. Arsenal aren't a weak team, are they? I think they've signed that Zombia today from Real Sociedad. I think he come from, or something like that. One of the Spanish teams. So yeah, they have got a much stronger team than Southampton. And we obviously kind of knew what that score was going to be. I do feel for Southampton because on their day they are a good team. They have got a decent side. And I think Ramsdale has just completely gone downhill from how he was at Arsenal to now playing for Southampton. But yeah, I think they'll build a solid team for next year and come back up into the Prem.
Yeah, I think that's very much a possibility. Southampton have really, really struggled this year. I mean, they just about got past the points total of the worst Premier League side in history, by fact being Derby County. So, yeah, I mean, Ramsdale was nominated for nominated in the team of the season for the Premier League, which was quite baffling to me. But he's obviously well liked down there.
I think he's the right goalkeeper in the wrong team. Personally, Kaiden. I think he'd thrive at most teams. To be fair, in the Premier League, I wouldn't say he is championship standard. I think he's Premier League standard. I think he would thrive at most teams. I think obviously Arsenal just let him go, obviously because they got David Raya come along, and I can't think the other goalkeeper are. So obviously he had to be moved on. Unfortunately, Southampton wanted him, so that's where he went. But I think he's the right goalkeeper in the wrong team.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you there. I don't think Ramsdale is a championship goalkeeper by any stretch of the imagination, but here he is. And unless he gets to move away, it's championship football for him next season. Barney, what did you think of Southampton 1, Arsenal 2?
I mean, having watched Southampton myself, it's been a big struggle for them this season, no doubt about that. And Ramsdale, amongst another couple of two, have proved their worth. And they're really good players. And it's like what Travis says. I think he is the right player in the wrong team. Southampton have just been, by their own admission, just really, really below par this season. I felt desperately sorry for their fans, to be honest. I don't think many of their players can really cover themselves in too much glory. I mean, you can ask a lot of questions about why it's gone so wrong. And obviously we talk about, the record points total. And I was talking to Chris about that, obviously being a Derby County fan, being so close to their record. It's a very different Premier League to what it was when Derby was in it. This Southampton team has spent a lot more money than what Derby did when they went up and got 11 points. So in the modern Premier League era, to get 12 is just really not good enough, to be honest. For a top tier team, a Premier League team, to get that, there's something wrong. And if it's parachute payments, if it's investment, if it's the right players, they just need to. I agree with Travis. They've got a base to build, and I think they'll be there or thereabouts next season again.
Yeah, I think you make some very good points there, Barney. Bailey, what did you think of Southampton's game against Arsenal?
I mean, one thing that's been positive for Southampton, with that game in particular, is seeing Ross Stewart come back from injury and score. In the Championship next season, he's going to be one to watch. He's a more than capable goal scorer, and for him to be out that long, it's just disappointing. Would he have changed Southampton's fortune? Definitely not. I mean, to only get 12 points in the Premier League, that says something about the club itself, from going from the established Premier League team Southampton was to becoming, well, the second worst team in Premier League history behind the famous Derby County. So it's just pure disappointing. But next season should be a lot better for them, I'd say. They've got the base, but can they build on it? Is the question.
Yeah, it is. I mean, as you say, they have got the basis of a very good team. But it's whether it's fully utilised. But that is a completely different story. Moving on to the third game of this Game Week 38 review, the final game week of the Premier League season. It's Wolves 1, Brentford 1. Now, this game was strange one, because Wolves not playing for anything really, and Brentford trying to get a European spot. But I think it was a fair result. I think Wolves have been a lot better lately, and so have Brentford. I think Brentford's biggest problem is they concede a lot, but on the other hand, they do score a lot. So you've got to kind of weigh that up. Travis, what did you think of Wolves 1, Brentford 1?
I think it's a great result for both teams, really. I think Brentford have got a really, really good team, and I think they're going to really struggle to keep hold of Wissa and Mbeumo in his transfer window. I think they'll have loads of teams after him. Obviously, Cunha's gone to Wolves for, I think it was for 61 million or something like that, and he's worth that all day long. In my opinion, I think he's the sort of player that Man United needs. But yeah, good point for both teams. I think personally, I think Brentford should have been higher in the Premier League. I think they should have been really, really pushing for that Europa League or Champions League position, because they have had a really good season. They've had some really good score lines, and I think they are just a really good team. I mean, I dread playing Brentford every year because of the team that they've got, with obviously Wissa and Ubremo. But I think Wolves are going to struggle now. Obviously, with Pedro Neto, obviously has now he went to Chelsea last year, and obviously now losing Cunha. But I think their employment with players, I think, has never really been bad. I think they will really spend that money wisely, and get a good replacement in for Cunha. And I think they could be up there next year. Same as Brentford. I think they're two. Obviously, I know they're in different positions in the league, but I still think they're both really good teams. They both go for it. They both want to score goals, and they both score goals.
Yeah, you're truly right. Barney, what did you think of Wolves 1, Brentford 1?
No, I fully agree with Travis. Great analysis there. I think they're two very entertaining sides. They both like to score a lot, but they also concede a lot, and it's going to be interesting to see how Cunha gets on at Manchester United. I do feel he's capable of making that step up, and I think Wolves, they've had a good season. They obviously tailed off a little bit towards the end, as did Brentford. Brentford, obviously being a London rival, I still rate them really, really highly, and they should have finished higher. But again, like us, they tailed off towards the end of the season, which was disappointing for them, because I really, really rate Thomas Frank. I think he's a top-class manager, and I think he will get them Europe if he gets it right. If he's still there, obviously, next season, and they sign the right players.
Yeah, I do agree with you there. Bailey, what did you think of Wolves 1, Brentford 1?
I think it was a very fair scoreline. I mean, Brentford have been utterly incredible this season. I didn't really see it coming. They have the job Thomas Frank's done. It can't be understated. He is a world-class manager, and he's managed to develop top players like Wissa. I mean, even Sharda's doing great and could have a high future. But Wolves, they're not going to enjoy next campaign. They're going to lose more key players, I think, than just Cunha. I reckon they'll lose that Al Narit guy. It's just not looking good for them. And I can see them ending up in the Championship very soon.
Oh, fair enough there. On to the next game then, being Bournemouth 2, Leicester 0. Now, I think it was a very, very obvious scoreline. Leicester obviously relegated once again to the Championship. Something's very, very wrong at Leicester. They got promoted last season, and then they went straight back down to the Championship for 25-26. Bournemouth just fantastic at the moment. A lot better than what they were in seasons prior, and it's good to see a team like Bournemouth succeeding, considering that they are a fairly smallish club. Travis, what did you think of Bournemouth 2, Leicester 0?
I think as you quite rightly said there, I think Leicester are a very, very struggling side, and it's obviously it's understandable why they have been relegated. I think that is purely down to their management. I don't think Ruud van Nistelrooy has really got a clue, really, which is shocking. Shocking, and it's quite surprising, really, because obviously he was manager of Man United. I know he didn't get very far, but he also played for Man United, so he should have had more of that winning mentality, really. Obviously, with the era that he played for Manchester United, so I'm quite surprised about that. But their recruitment is shocking. Obviously, they've lost Jamie Vardy now, but I thought, when they got the likes of Oliver Skip over, I thought he would have been an absolute asset for that club. Got a lot more playing time. I've barely seen him play. I don't know if anyone else has seen him play. Harry Winks as well. I've rated Oliver Skip over more Harry Winks, if I'm honest with you. But yeah, I think their recruitment, and I think there's obviously more going on inside the club, and I think a lot of it comes from the helicopter crash that happened at the King Power Stadium a couple of years ago. I think that's really kind of turned the club upside down and really hit the club hard. So it's understandable why their recruitment probably hasn't been as good. There's obviously a lot of personal issues attached to that, to why that is happening. But they can be a good side. It's shown over the years they can be a good side, but Bournemouth have had an exceptional season. Obviously with Semenyo, I think he's absolutely superb, and Evan Nielsen as well. Two really, really good players that they've got there. So I think Bournemouth are going to be another side that build that foundation and build a really good club to challenge for either, again, for Europa or Champions League next year.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I think Bournemouth have the quality to try and challenge for Europe, but it's whether they can get it, because they had a couple of consecutive losses, then they brought it back, and then they went on another consecutive losing streak. So whether they can kind of balance all of that out across the whole season, and then they'll give themselves a better chance at getting the European spaces.
I think what will happen as well, Kaiden, I think with their owner as well, obviously he comes to the United States, and obviously, as we all know, the soccer in the United States is absolutely huge. It's one of the biggest sports out there. So I think there will be a lot of recruitment with Bournemouth this year, and I think their ambition is just going to get higher and higher and higher, personally.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's good to see that a club has such ambition, because a lot of clubs nowadays lack ambition and are really just doing it for a cash grab. But I don't think Bournemouth are doing it for a cash cash grab at all. I think they're recruiting well. They've brought some good players in. Obviously, they've just got rid of Dean Huijsen. He's gone to Real Madrid. So that will be a loss for them. But I think they can easily get another defender in that's equal quality or even better than Dean Huijsen. Barney, what did you make of Bournemouth 2, Leicester 0?
Yeah, I mean, just echoing what Travis says, Bournemouth are a side I've always rated tremendously well. Obviously, we came up with them in 2022, and they've tried to sort of follow that model of improving themselves year upon year. And to be honest with you, it's refreshing to see sides come up. I mean, us and Bournemouth, we're not big clubs, we never will be, but the fact that we were even in the European conversation for so long into the season, and if it wasn't for the tail off that we both had, I genuinely believe that we are both capable of certainly challenging for the Europa League. So Bournemouth have impressed me. They've got the likes of Semenyo, Justin Kluivert. They're really, really good, solid players. They're just a good squad team, and they got their recruitment right. Sort of in contrast to Leicester, who I just think need to go back to the drawing room. Ruud van Nistelrooy has a big job there. I mean, it's going to be a tall order. If they need to get a points deduction next season, who knows? So it's all up in the air. There's a lot of slippery slopes, I feel, ahead for Leicester in the Championship. It's not going to be easy for them, but I do think Bournemouth can certainly push on next season for European places. That's my opinion.
Yeah, well, that's actually some fair points there. Bailey, what did you make of Bournemouth 2, Leicester 0?
Well, I think Bournemouth have been an excellent side this season. It's really nice to see a club, the size of Bournemouth, doing this so sustainably. Because usually you look at clubs getting into European spots and they've got cash flowing out their asses from Saudi money. But it's really refreshing to see someone doing it sustainably and nice. I mean, they're not a big side, as Barney said, but I think it's well deserved for them to be in the European conversation, especially with the job Iraola's done. He's been an unreal manager this year. And I think if they hold on to him and some of their key players, yes, granted some have left, I do think they'll get Europe next season. Whereas Leicester, I have a feeling Leicester are going to do exactly what Watford have done, is they're going to come down and they're not going to find their way back up for a while. I mean, you'd know all about that with you being a Watford fan, but it's not going to look good for Leicester, and the future's dark for them. Ruud van Nistelrooy will not last long. I mean, they're in talks with Russell Martin, I've heard. So, yeah, going to be something to definitely keep an eye on there.
Yeah. I mean, I've experienced a few relegations in my time as a Watford supporter, and yeah, I mean, when you get relegated from the Premier League, it's really strange. It's a strange feeling, because it's the sense of uncertainty for next season. And I think for Leicester, they're staring into the barrel of, as you say, some really, really dark times. And I think that they won't be up at the first time of asking. Same as Sheffield United didn't come up at the first time of asking. I think it will take 3 or 4 seasons for Leicester to get back up to the Premier League. But then you say, well, Leicester players aren't going to want to stick around. For example, El Khanous, he's not going to want to stick around playing in the Championship. He's going to want Premier League football. So I think they'll lose a lot of players, and it'll be disappointing to see Leicester sink so much. But that's the dark side of football. But yeah, I mean, yeah, dark times for Leicester. Moving on to Newcastle 0, Everton 1. Now, this was a shock to me because I thought, Newcastle, they're at St James's Park. It's the final day of the season. They're going to wipe the floor with Everton. But no, Everton played well and they got their result. Barney, what did you think of Newcastle 0, Everton 1?
Well, it's funny you say this, bring me in first. Everton cannot be underestimated under David Moyes. I think since he's come back in, he's got them, playing football again. They seem rejuvenated under him. And obviously going into the sort of the game in 13th place, we just played them recently and they're a good outfit. He's got them playing some good stuff and they're well organised. You've got obviously Pickford, how good he is. And they just seem to be more, up for games. Whereas before, I just always felt you never know what kind of Everton were going to sort of almost turn up. Newcastle, obviously, they still got Champions League football, haven't they, regardless of the result. So they'll be pleased with that. But it was a sort of shock, yeah, because you think, St James's Park is a bit of a fortress. And when you get a result like this, it's unexpected to a degree. But then on the flip side, Everton are a good side. And I think as shown there, they kept a clean sheet away. And they'll be pleased with that. And they've got, obviously, how do I pronounce his name? But the goal scorer for Everton, it was a decent strike. And yeah, they'll be pleased with that win.
Yeah, I think they should. It's an impressive win against Newcastle, especially at St James's Park, with St James's Park known for being such a difficult place to go. Bailey, what did you think of Newcastle 0, Everton 1?
I mean, it was a shock result with Newcastle searching for Champions League, hoping not to drop into Europa or Conference on final day, but Everton everything started to click for them. David Moyes has properly turned the fortunes around that Sean Dyche couldn't really, and it's great to see that former giant is starting to sneak its way back up. I mean, Newcastle at St James's Park, it's always going to be a hard game, especially with the reputation they've got there and the fans. St James's Park is one of the hardest places to go to, mainly due to the atmosphere that Newcastle fans create. But I do think if any club could do it there, it's a club who, excuse my language, is a shithouse as Everton, because that is the master. They are the master of that. And I think it's what they specialise in.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Travis, what did you think of Newcastle 0, Everton 1 at St James's Park?
Yeah, I'm going to go with what Buddy just said. I think it was a real shock scoreline, really. I think Newcastle have had a really, really good season. Obviously, with Alexander Isaac, obviously scoring for fun. I think Eddie Howe has done a phenomenal job with Newcastle. But again, obviously with what's the other manager's name? David Moyes. David Moyes obviously going back to it, and I think he's kind of really revamped himself and kind of got them going, and hopefully going to get where they need to be, because Everton on their day are a really good side. I think they could also have a good recruitment in the transfer window. There's probably a couple of players I'd let go. But yeah, I think David Moyes has done a really good job ever since getting back to Everton. I think they'll have a good season next year. Just shocking to see Newcastle losing. I never thought in a million years that they would lose that game, but there we go. I think Everton have got a lot to look forward to. With obviously the new stadium being built and stuff like that. So yeah, good to see them getting the results that they need to get.
Yeah, I mean, I never thought that Everton would win, but that's football, and I think Newcastle were very disappointing. I mean, yes, they got their Champions League football, but on the final day they were very, very poor. On to Spurs 1, Brighton 4. I'm going to go straight to Travis. Travis, what did you think of that game?
Absolutely shocking, really. Dominic Solanke obviously got the penalty, scored the penalty. I thought we might have been all right, but Brighton, when they get going, are terrifying. They've got a really, really good side. The only good thing was they didn't have what's his name, Pedro, playing, which is a huge miss for them because he's been a real asset for Brighton this year. So, but again, Brighton are a good side, and I think, to be honest with you, I think half the Tottenham team were hungover. I think a lot of them were still drunk from the celebrations of the European Cup. That's not an excuse. I think that is the truth. And how Brennan Johnson was playing after seeing him the state he was in at them celebrations, he's beyond me. I don't know what Ange gave him, but must gave him rocket fuel or something like that because he was in a bad way. So yeah, not a great result. I think we were still too buzzing from obviously winning the Europa Cup, and yeah, just another knife in our coffin, really. I was more concerned for Ange, really, but I think we will keep hold of Ange, and I really hope we do, because I think season, as he said, season 3 is always better than season 2, and I think next year is going to be a good season for us. But we need to strengthen in so many positions. I think there was talks yesterday on Sky Sports saying that we could potentially get Leroy Sané on a free, and I would take him all day long. So yeah, we need to strengthen, and I think Brighton will strengthen again. So yeah, I wasn't surprised with the result. Obviously, with us being 17th and having, I think it's 23, 24 losses this season. But we had a European Cup to celebrate, so it wasn't that much of a bad blow to what it has been in previous games.
Yeah, I mean, I was very, very shocked with the Brighton result. Obviously, Spurs coming off such a high of that Europa League final win against Man United. But yeah, it was weird because I thought Spurs were going to win, but clearly not. I mean, Brighton have been a good team this season. They have been, and they've got good infrastructure there with certain players that they've got. They've got former Watford player João Pedro, which I'll sing the praises of because he's absolutely fantastic. But they've also got the likes of Yankuba Minter and Karu Matoma that are also playing very, very well. They've even got Carlos Baleba in their team, in their midfield, and that's fantastic for them. And I think Spurs are kind of lacking in a lot of positions. I think one of the main places they need to kind of invest in is the midfield, because I don't think the midfield is that great, to be quite honest.
Brighton
Barney,
or Spurs, Kaiden?
Spurs.
Yeah, I wouldn't say midfield's great. It could be better, and I think that's where Leroy Sané could come in and really kind of show his worth, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Leroy Sané possibly signing for you is a brilliant investment from Daniel Levy, as Leroy Sané is a fantastic player and will do absolute wonders for you going forward into 25-26. Barney, what did you think of Spurs 1, Brighton 4?
Well, firstly, I think Brighton have had a brilliant season, and I think they were just desperately unlucky towards the end just to miss out on that Conference League. And, it went down to the wire, didn't it? Obviously, if Brighton finished in 8th, but they've had some really good results this season, and they've got a great temper about them. And when we played them, they're great on the ball. They've got great pace. Pedro, Toya, really, really good players. Yes, Spurs have had a disastrous league season, and in many ways the Europa League campaign is sort of distracted from that, and sort of I get the impression with Spurs their league form has sort of been just going along, and kind of people have just been waiting and hoping that the Europa League campaign came good, because at least it will give them something to cheer about. But now that all the dust is settled from a Spurs point of view, Ange is the right man for the job. I think the third season will be better. I said this to Harry as well. I think going forward, I agree with you. I think they need to reinvest in the midfield area. I think Solanke will carry on improving. I think he'll be an effective striker next year. But yeah, they've got to sort of, stabilise their league form, go again next season, and try and aim for that kind of top 6, top 7 minimum. As for Brighton, they can certainly be up there again, challenging for Europe. I think they're just going to push on now.
Yeah, I think Brighton really do have a strong chance of getting the European place, and I think they will in the end. But it'll be a really, really tough battle for Brighton. Bailey, what did you think? Spurs 1, Brighton 4.
It was kind of expected in my eyes. I completely knew the celebrations. They looked unreal, and well, all the players are going to be hungover after anything like that. I'm surprised they didn't play the kids, if I'm going to be completely honest. But it was, well, Brighton have been a really good side, as Barney's and Travis have said. They deserve to be where they are, and well, Europa League, if not Champions League, has got to be the aim for them next season. They've got so many up and coming talents, as you've said, like Baleba. I even think Cashin's going to be one to watch next season, and he was dire when he came on for them, if I'm going to be honest. But Tottenham, moving on to Tottenham, I feel like they need a summer with a huge rebuild. That money in getting into the Champions League has to be spent right. Will they invest it right? I'm not too sure. If they do get Sane, that would be a huge deal for them. But they really do need to reinvest into the midfield, possibly even the attack, because Dominic Solanke, he's been disappointing, especially considering his price tag. I think they should start looking at developing talents more than just buying ready-made talents. If I have to say it.
Yeah, you make some fair points there. Moving on to Fulham 0, Manchester City 2. Travis, what did you think of this one?
What game is that? Sorry.
Fulham 0, Manchester City 2.
Yeah, I mean, I feel for Fulham really, because I think they've had a really good season with Munoz started scoring quite a few goals, and I really rate him as a striker. I thought they probably had more chance against Man City, obviously with Man City's form, and obviously with Kevin De Bruyne leaving. But I think Fulham will be. I mean, they are a good side anyway, Fulham, and I've always rated Fulham. They have been good and very strong for a good couple of years. And I'm glad Ryan Sessegnon went back to Fulham, because he wasn't really getting a look in at Tottenham, and I think obviously that he's boyhood club, and I think he really did thrive going back to Fulham. But yeah, I was surprised about the scoreline. Really, I thought Fulham probably should have got 1 or 2 goals, or at least a draw. But they're another team who have dipped, as well as what City have as well. So yeah, I think Fulham have just been unlucky, to be fair, to not get a draw in that game. But again, there'll be another team that I think recruit for next season and will be even stronger than what they've been this season, and competing. Fulham should be one of them teams that are competing for Champions League football or Europa League football. They should be up there with the best, because of how good their team is on their day.
Yeah, the Fulham team are fantastic on their day, and they've had some great results throughout the season. Did okay in the cup competitions and had a great league campaign. Barney, what did you think? Fulham 0, Manchester City 2.
I totally agree with Travis. I think it's been a season of consolidation, improvements, and in this particular game has been a bit of a kind of sort of an ongoing issue, if you like. We've had our moments in games, we've had chances, we've played some great stuff. Defensively, we've been sound. The likes of Antonio Robinson, Sasa Lukic, Andres Pereira, Harry Wilson. Now he's back. It's great to have him back because he's scoring goals again. Alex Iwobi. All these players, and obviously led by Marco Silva. We've never been a team of world stars, but what we do have is a strong work ethic. And from what I've seen all this season is that we fight for each other and there's a battle and never say give up attitude. In this game, though, City were all over us for the first 20 minutes. And it's usually been the case sometimes with those kind of teams, and we sort of sat back and invited them onto us. And as the game went on, we got our chances. Harry Wilson had a chance. We should have done better for Andres Pereira, found the side netting. But City are going to pick you off. They just need one chance. And the bicycle kick, when it came, was a moment of quality, and there's nothing really you can do about that. And obviously the penalty, it was a penalty, unfortunately. But at 1-0, you never know. Yeah, I thought we deserved to score. I definitely did. 1, maybe 2, I agree. But as I said to the guy next to me at the game, if you don't take your chances, you're going to be punished. And we've dropped 28 points from winning positions this season. So that's something we need to work on, certainly for next season, if we are to push for the European places. City look good, though. Very clinical.
Yeah, I mean, City were always going to be a clinical side and get a goal at some point. But I do think Fulham did deserve some kind of result out of the game. I would say a 2-2 draw would have been a fair result. I do feel sorry for Fulham because I think they've had a great league campaign, and it's interesting to see what they're going to do in the transfer window going into next season. Because next season's going to be a massive season for them as they challenge for the Europa League, maybe if they're that good, even the Champions League. But we shall see. Bailey, what did you think of that game then? Fulham 0, Manchester City 2.
I've got to say Fulham were quite unlucky. I mean, they had their pick of the chances. They just didn't take them, which, if you, as Barney said, if you don't take your chances, you're not going to win. Man City, they're going to take their chances. They're good. They're a very clinical side. They've got the likes of Erling Haaland, Marmoush. It's quite disappointing to see when they're been struggling. I thought they struggled a bit against Fulham, if I'm going to be honest, with a draw possibly being the fair result. But I do think it's hugely disappointing for City. Next season, something has to change because their model isn't working anymore, which has been shown by this disappointing season, I think.
Yeah, I think the way that Manchester City is run and doesn't work anymore at all. They need to be buying a lot of players, but also you have then got to think, well, yes, we need a lot of players, but Pep doesn't want to work with a big squad, so you have to weigh it up. You can either bring in loads of quality, or you can slim the squad down to what Pep wants. But it's up to Man City what they do there. But I think, yes, in a way you need a small squad, but when the Premier League is as relentless as it is, because it is relentless, because you've got Premier League, Carabao Cup, FA Cup, and then whatever mid-season friendlies that they normally like to pull off. So you need a semi-big squad, and that's what needs to happen at Manchester City, and sell what they would call the deadwood, and bring some more players in that are higher quality. To try and challenge for that Premier League title. On to the one of the last games we're going to talk about tonight. There's 3 games left to talk about. One of them being this one. It's Liverpool 1, Crystal Palace 1. Now, this was Liverpool's day because they won the trophy. They lifted the trophy on Sunday, and it was fantastic to see Manchester City knocked off their perch and the Premier League title in another team's hands, which is fantastic to see. So it's not the same old repetitive, boring Premier League that we have seen before when City were winning the treble. Travis, what did you think? Liverpool 1, Palace 1.
Yeah, both 2 really good teams. Obviously, Liverpool winning the Premier League was obviously written in the stars anyway, so to speak. Obviously, with the season that they've had, they've been absolutely fantastic this year. But Palace, you can't knock Palace. I think they've been absolutely superb. Obviously, won the FA Cup against Manchester City, which takes them doing. Let's be honest. But I think Palace again have got a really good team. I think Eze's really hit the road running. I think he's had a really, really good season. I think the whole team have, to be fair. And I think they are a really powerful side. But Liverpool, I think now they've won the Premier League, I think they're kind of sitting back because they've won it. But now they're really kind of showing where they need to strengthen and what positions they need to strengthen in. And I think their midfield is going to be one of them. Obviously, we know Alexander-Arnold is going to Real Madrid. I don't think there's a fee for that yet. At least I haven't seen a fee with what Madrid are willing to pay for Alexander-Arnold. I'm sure it won't be cheap. Obviously, being the caliber of player that he is. But even still, their recruitment won't ever be anything to worry about because of who they are and what sort of team that they have, and with their academy and their youngsters coming through as well. I don't think there's going to be any problems there, and I think Jurgen Klopp has kind of left Slot a real team to be not only proud about, but kind of left, carried on from where Klopp left off. I don't think he's really had to do much. I don't know much about Arne Slot. I know he come from finals, but I think he's kind of sit back and let Liverpool do their thing. Really, Salah's had another good season. It's good to see him obviously signing another contract. I can't remember when it's till, but yeah, I think Liverpool and Palace, 2 really good teams, and I think Palace will be another team who are up there next year. And I think the FA Cup is obviously the first cup they've ever won, so I think that's going to really, really boost their confidence and make them feel proud and climb that Premier League next year.
That they have had a good season. I mean, Liverpool are obviously the best team in England this season, but Palace have been very good. Obviously, they won the FA Cup. Eze is playing fantastically well. Same with another former Watford player, Ismaila Sarr, which again is fantastic to see with Will Hughes in and around the first team. But yeah, I could definitely see them being higher up in the table next season. Little bits of investment here and there, and they will be completely fine. Barney, I'm going to go to you. Liverpool 1, Crystal Palace 1. What did you think?
Well, Crystal Palace are a side who have been rejuvenated in the second half of the season. I've been seriously impressed with them, and they found form and just gone from strength to strength, really. Sarr, Eze, I think they could walk into most Premier League sides, to be fair. I particularly like how they sort of battle and break on the counter, winning their first major trophy. It's a terrific feat for their manager, who I, really rate highly. And, Liverpool, they've got obviously Mo Salah, who's had a fantastic season, breaking sort of records, assists. They've obviously won the title, which they thoroughly deserve to do. I always felt this game in particular was just a coming together of two sides really in great form. So a kind of draw was probably about right. Palace obviously now qualify for Europe. I wish them the very best of luck. They obviously beat us in the FA Cup, and they were a terrific team. They took us apart, to be fair. And I really do genuinely think they can push on next season. Obviously now they're in Europe, I think they can actually make something of that and improve on that league position as well.
I think that Palace will definitely be up there next season. It's just how high is their ceiling? But yeah, they've got bags and bags of potential. Bailey, what did you think? Liverpool won, Crystal Palace won.
I mean, I completely agree with everything Barney's just said. Liverpool have been unbeatable this season until they won the title. Then they just decided to take the foot off the gas. But I mean, some might view it as a bit disrespectful to the league, but they've deserved it. They've just blitzed every team out the water, and to have a substantial point gap on Arsenal the whole time, it's admirable. I mean, their talent, the players they have can't be spoken about enough, with the likes of Gravenberch, who did get a second yellow and sent off, but he's an unreal player. McAllister, he's good. Their midfield's just great in general. Well, everything about him's great. Whereas Palace, after the FA Cup win, I thought they'd do the same, which is they had no left to play for and they're on the beach. But they decided to try and claw a point there. They clawed a point and they didn't do it in any manner you wouldn't expect. Next season's definitely going to be interesting from them. I mean, the Europe money, that's something to see how they invest it. Their owners, though, the question is, are they going to invest it right?
Yeah, I mean that's the question. Investment's key for any football club. I think for Palace, it's going to be vital to kind of decide what's going to happen next season. Moving on to one of the final two games we're going to talk about this evening, being Manchester United 2, Aston Villa 2. Now, this game has obviously been met with quite a bit of controversy. Morgan Rogers basically was accused of fouling Altay Bayindir, as Bayindir had full control of the ball at the time. Travis, what did you think of this game?
Blatant goal. The keeper didn't have two hands on the ball whatsoever. I think that's a complete, absolute cock up from VAR, to be honest with you. And I think it's just proof why VAR is absolutely destroying the game of football. There was absolutely nothing wrong with that goal, and obviously now it's taken away their chance of obviously getting European football. I think that was an absolutely horrendous decision from VAR and people on and off the pitch. I didn't actually see anything wrong with that goal whatsoever. If the keeper had two fixed hands on the ball, it's a different story, but he didn't. So yeah, I think that's a really, really poor decision from VAR and Stockley Park, really. I think that goal should have been given all day long, and obviously Villa would now be in the Champions League. Yeah, I didn't see anything wrong with that whatsoever.
No, I didn't either. Nothing wrong with it. The only thing that definitely was a decision that should have gone against Aston Villa was Emi Martinez's red card. That is one of the most blatant red cards you will see. You cannot do that as a goalkeeper. You can't do that as any player, let alone a goalkeeper flying out of his box like that. Barney, what did you think of that game? Manchester United 2, Aston Villa 0.
From a United point, they'll just take anything because they've had a desperately poor season, a shadow of the side from when I was a kid watching them. So they need to do something to kind of just arrest that slump, if you like, because I don't recall a United side in decades being so below par. And I just saw Alex Ferguson at the end there just looking a face like Thunder, and you're just thinking none of these United players are playing for the shirt, and they just don't appear to have that passion, if you like, that kind of drive, to go out there and actually believe. But this result, they'll take it, even though it was a bit of luck involved. Obviously, the red card for Villa. I mean, you can't do that. It was a rugby tackle, wasn't it? No goalkeeper can get away with that. That's a red card all day. But I agree with Travis. It should have been a goal. That goalkeeper wasn't in control of that ball, so that goal should have been allowed to stand. So I feel desperately sorry for Villa. They've had a terrific season, but they're right to feel aggrieved because they should have been in with a shout of Champions League football. I mean, obviously it's football, it's ifs and buts, you never know. And you never know what might have happened, but certainly it was taken away from them, the chance anyway. Not necessarily the outcome, but the chance to get Champions League football. So, yeah, United will take that, but from Villa point, very disappointed if I was a Villa fan.
Yeah, I would be as well. I think that Man United fans are so quick to blame their manager, being Ruben Amorim. Now, yes, Amorim makes mistakes. He didn't make mistakes against Villa, I'll say that. But he has made a couple of mistakes, but it's not on Amorim. It's the overall squad. I think the overall squad is absolutely diabolical for the quality that Man United used to be. I mean, Man United used to be the best team in England by a long mile, winning the treble. Now they're 16th or 17th in the Premier League, one place above 18th being a relegation spot. That's mental to me that Man United are that low in this current state of the Premier League. That was not a foul on Bayern Deer. That was a clear goal that VAR should have ruled as a goal, and as Travis said, it was absolutely ridiculous that VAR didn't give it a goal. But that's the main issue with VAR. I think there's been many issues with VAR across this season and seasons prior, and it just proves that the technology actually isn't the issue. It's the people that are using the technology that is the issue. We need to be having in the Premier League, as many people have pointed out before, having independent regulators coming in rather than already Premier League referees that may have bias or are mates with the ref. They need to have an independent regulator to go in and say, look, we think you got this wrong, this, and this. Not, let's be mates, let's use nicknames, let's do this, and this. No, you're there to referee a game, not to be best mates with someone. The use of VAR is very, very, very wrong at the moment. Bailey, what did you think of Man United 2, Aston Villa 0?
Well, that was a blatant goal, and it certainly would have changed the course of the match. But apart from that, Man United were good. Having 26 shots, that they just completely battered Villa, in my opinion. Villa didn't show much fight after the disallowed goal. I think they're still caught up in their heads about it. But it was clear to see Man United did deserve the win, but that win's rounded up an incredibly disappointing season for them. For Man United to finish, 15th? It's disgraceful. It's utterly disgraceful, and something needs to change there. But the manager, no. They sacked the managers way too early, and if anybody could turn it around, can be Amorim. He's got he looks like he's got a clue on what he's doing. It's the squad that's the issue. And when they start getting questioned, the sooner it could change for Man United.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's such toxicity in the United fan base against their manager. And it's only a small portion, but I don't know why. Because Amorim, there's no way it's the issue. And it's no way it's his system, because we've heard that it's his system about a million times before. No, it's not. It's just the players. The players are absolutely dreadful at Man United, and it needs to change there. And what it changes from is the people at the top. So Jim Radcliffe, I mean, he's flown 32 squad members out to Malaysia to play 2 meaningless friendlies out in Malaysia 2 days after a season has ended of over 36 games overall because of cups for £8 million. That's all they have made. £8 million. So it's just a money-making exercise, and that's the biggest issue at Man United, that Sir Jim Radcliffe doesn't know what he's doing, and the Glazers are rotting the football club to the core because they've been there 20 years and nothing has happened since. They have barely had any success in that time. I feel really sorry for Man United fans that they have to deal with such an incompetent ownership that is run by Sir Jim Radcliffe and the Glazers. And everyone was saying, oh, Sir Jim's coming in, Sir Jim's going to change everything. But the harsh reality, no, he's not. He doesn't know how to run a football club. He's just done it because he claimed he's a Man United fan to try and get the Man United fans on side. All he has done by sending these players out to Malaysia is a money-making exercise, and it should not be accepted, because if you look at the Man United team today, you could see that none of them wanted to be there. Look at the first team's faces. Look at Harry Maguire's face. Look at Aiden Heaven. Look at Diego Dalot. They didn't want to be there, yet they're forced out there so the club can earn $8 million while they're making cuts in the canteen saying only first team players get supreme meals. It's just money making, and it can't happen in the modern day of the Premier League. Someone needs to step in at Man United for any change to actually ensue at the club, because otherwise it's a downward spiral and they could be worse next season compared to this season. So there's a massive summer ahead down at Man United. But we'll see what they do in the transfer window. I mean, they're linked with some interesting players. They were linked with Gyökeres, but it looks like he's off to Arsenal. And they're linked with a few other players here and there. But I don't think that's going to solve their issue. I don't think 1 or 2 players is going to solve the issue, because the majority of the squad is really, really poor. On to the last game that we're going to discuss this evening, and the last one of game week 38, arguably the biggest one, as it secured the final Champions League place on final day. Nottingham Forest 0, Chelsea 1. Now, Forest, fantastic season by Nottingham Forest. From the Championship to now, brilliance. They've been brilliant all season long, and no one really expected it. People thought Forest would be low to relegation kind of scrap. No, they've done very, very well. They've overachieved massively. They should be very proud of themselves, and Nuno has worked wonders. Travis, I am going to go to you. What did you think? Forest 0, Chelsea 1.
Yeah, I think Forest have been absolutely superb this year. I think Chris Wood, obviously, given his age and stuff like that, I think he's been absolutely exceptional. Morgan Gibbs-White, I think there'll be a lot of teams looking at him in the transfer window. I think he would probably walk into most Premier League teams at the moment. Yeah, and I think Chelsea are just Chelsea, and I think I think Maresca's done a really good job ever since we've taken over from Graham Potter. But yeah, I think, I don't really like Chelsea, so I'd rather talk more about Forest, because they have been absolutely superb. They have missed out on Champions League football, which I really did not think was going to happen, obviously with the sort of season that they've had. So yeah, I really do feel sorry for Forest, obviously, from being in the Championship coming up to the Premier League. I think their team, the way they play football, and obviously Matt Sells, a goalkeeper, what a fantastic goalkeeper. Again, another player who would walk into most Premier League teams at the moment. I think they will really look into recruiting into the team this year, and I think they will go for Champions League football next year. And if they play anything like they did this year, they will walk into the Champions League, and I think they really will do well in it. So yeah, I've got a lot of high hopes for Nottingham Forest. My friend that works a Forest fan, so there's been a lot of conversation about Nottingham Forest, and their fans are fantastic. So I really do hope they do recruit and go again next year and get into a good position in the Premier League and finally get European football, which I thought out of a lot of teams this year that they should have got it.
Yeah, I think Forest deserved it massively. They've had a great season. They've got a great team. You got Ola Aina, Matt Sells. Matt Sells being arguably the best goalkeeper in the division this season. Ola Aina, fantastic season from him, and overall a very, very impressive Forest side this year, and hopefully they can go for Champions League next season and go on the upward spiral and continue their recent success in the Premier League. Barney, what did you think? Forest 0, Chelsea 1.
I'm 100% with Travis. I mean, we can talk about Chelsea, getting the win here, but in many ways, you expect Chelsea to be there or thereabouts. So I definitely like to talk about Forest more because obviously, they came up with us in Bournemouth, and a side who's invested well in the transfer market. Nuno is my manager of the season, hands down. Yes, they tailed off towards the end, and at one stage they even looked in contention for the title. And I'm not joking; they looked that good. I thought minimum they'll get Champions League football, and I think it's only a matter of time before they do. I agree. Next season, I think they'll be thereabouts again. I think they'll improve in the transfer market. I think Matt Sells has been outstanding. He's one of my favourite players in the Premier League. I think he's got some of the highest clean sheets this season. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah, I thought so. So, yeah, they tailed off, but they still got Europe. That they've achieved something. And in their, third season in the Premier League, to get European football, it's a big achievement. It really is. And I think they can push on next season. They shouldn't be too downhearted for it because there's always positives to take. Just rebuild. They've got the core of the squad there. And like Chelsea, they've qualified for Europe now and they'll push on. They're expected to finish again up there in the top 4 next season. But I do think Forest could do the same. I think they'll be in the Champions League next season.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Bailey, what did you think? Forest 0, Chelsea 1.
I mean, I think it was, first I'll start off by talking the job Maresca's done, because he's not done as an impressive job as Nuno, obviously, but Maresca has to be hands down up there in the manager of the season contention, because he's took a broken squad that's experiencing a terrible season and he's managed to get them back where they should be. And you can say all you like about Chelsea having all these stars such as Caicedo, but if you look and tell a Chelsea fan that last season that they'd be in the Champions League, they'd have laughed at you, frankly, because they only looked like they were going to get worse and worse. I mean, as much as it pains me to say, Forest, they've been unreal this year. And at one point, you would have thought, they're going to get second over Arsenal. But, Nuno, incredible job. They've got incredible players. But what I want to talk about is their owner, because it started getting ugly between their owner and Nuno. And I don't think that should ever happen at all in football. And it's something that I can see Nuno walking out over. And if that happens, Forest are truly screwed over, because I don't think any other manager can get what Nuno got out of that squad.
Well, I don't think so either. I think Nuno has done impeccably well, considering the circumstance. Obviously, Forest have only been in the Premier League a short while now since the Championship, and they did very, very well last season. So it'll be interesting to see, as I've said many times, what they do in the transfer window, as the transfer window will be critical. That is the Game Week 36 review. Before we wrap up tonight's live stream, where can we find you on social media? So I'll start off with Travis.
Yeah, you can find me on X or Twitter, where it's called nowadays, at OfficialCaster. You can also find me on LinkedIn, where I do a lot of charity work and a lot of work based around men's mental health, which I've been saying it a while now, but I am currently in the planning of creating my own YouTube page to speak about the stigma around men's mental health and men's mental health in general.
Well done for kind of raising awareness for it. Obviously, men's mental health is so important, and it's brilliant to hear that people like you are out there and are raising awareness and trying to break down the stigma that is attached with men's mental health. So thank you there, Travis. Barney, where can we find you on social media, mate?
Yep, you can find me on Twitter or X, whatever it's called these days. I don't know. At Ambrose Barnaby. I'm on there usually most of the time talking about Fulham, or when Fulham are not playing, hoping I'm watching Fulham. But yeah, give me a follow and we can have a chat.
Thank you there, Barney. Bailey, where do we find you on social media, mate?
You can find me on Twitter at DCFCB8, or you can find some of my journalist works on the Lower Tiers website, which has got quite a few decent reads on there. So if you want to go check them out, feel free.
Thank you very much there, Bailey. I'll certainly go and check it out. Myself, I've got two. So I obviously run my own podcast, being the Hornets Talk podcast, which is a Watford-specific podcast, weekly Monday night Twitter Spaces, obviously then converted to Spotify. So if you can give us a follow over there, that'd be much appreciated. Or you can find me on my personal account at Gino Sell the Club. Obviously, our owner being an absolute idiot of the highest order. But yeah, thank you everyone for joining us this evening. Thank you to Harry for letting me do this for him. Thank you to Travis, Barney and Bailey for joining this evening. And that'll be it. So thank you very much. And we'll see you on the next one. Good night, everyone. Cheers.